Good reminder for myself. So it is being recorded and it will be made available to you. We will identify the areas that you can access the entire series. So we will let you know about that. The other thing that we would like to do is to start with a word of prayer. So if you would bow with me, please. Almighty God, we give you thanks, Lord, for the opportunity to bring our petitions to you. We give you thanks, Lord God, that you continue to bless us and provide for us and to give us guidance. We pray, Lord God, that as we go through this series where we address issues that we need to encounter in this life from a spiritual perspective, we just ask, Lord God, that you would guide presenters, we would guide those who hear. We ask, Lord, that those who hear will share and will apply the principles in their own lives. We pray all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Right. So, counseling psychologist, Brother Andre Allen Casey is our guide tonight. Brother Andre is, man, it doesn't even make sense to try to introduce a man like this because he's so well known. You turn on any media, he's there, television, radio, everything. Right? But he's also affiliated with the Family Life. And understand the principles. I want to tell you this because I want you to be attentive, is that this matter that we are going through and the content that you are getting, people pay significant sums to sit and to listen and to, listen to the counseling from Brother Andre. So I don't want to take up any more time. My name, by the way, is Trevor Smith, and I carry his bag. Brother Andre, let me keep quiet before I get myself in more trouble and hand over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to ask if you could give me the share screen facility. Just want to thank you very much for having me, and we are so happy to the St. Andrew Church of Christ, and okay, this will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? I must say yes. Let me see if it's yes, I must say. Right, excellent. And then here we go. Yes, excellent, excellent. So we are looking at how to restore trust, and this is part 2. We're going to do a little recapping, and then we'll go into part 2. Tonight will not be long. We want persons to have an opportunity to ask, questions, and we're going to give you the time to do that. And even if there were some questions in the previous presentation where we may not have had an opportunity to answer it in a wholesome way, then we probably can revisit some of those questions. But tonight, we finish early only because you don't have any questions to ask. But as long as you have the questions, we'll be there. But we will give you sufficient time to ask those questions. Just as far as any kind of recapping from part 1, we're not going to go in depth with that because you can watch the presentation. We have it uploaded, so you can go to our website and view it. But how to restore trust? But there is a caveat. It says if there is a desire to do so, and that is an important element. That's an important statement, because oftentimes folks says that, yes, I want to restore the trust, but really and truly what is required of them, they are not prepared to do, or sometimes they're not aware of what is required of them. We have some information. This is not an exhaustive list, but we have some information that in our line of work, and I say our, inclusive of Mr. Trevor Smith, you know, we recognize that there are some folks whom do not recognize if they were the ones that violated the trust or broke the trust, what are some things that is required of them to do. We're going to recap that. And then we're going to find out now from the person who is hurting if they have some things that they would need to do also. So let me put this in slideshow and we should go. Okay, there we go. And that should take us excellent throughout our slide. So the first thing we want to look at, and we look at the word infidelity specifically, because we're talking about lasting relationships. And since we're talking about lasting relationships, marriages, we're saying here that if you find yourself in a marriage relationship and the most common things that happens that breaks down in that relationship is trust, of course. But trust can be measured in several different aspects, of course. But we want to look, but specifically, one of the most difficult ones is infidelity. And how is it that persons revive from it? How is it that persons cope with it or manage themselves outside of this infidelity? What are some of the things that they can do? So we started off with the most difficult of them all, because the truth is there are some other aspects of trust that can be broken and let folks feel as if to say, I cannot depend on you, and of such I don't want to stay with you. But infidelity, we have found, is probably the most difficult of them all. It is referred to as cheating, adultery, having an affair. It is a subjective feeling that one's partner has violated a set of rules or relationship norms, and this violation results in feelings of sexual jealousy and rivalry. Of course, the violation can be sexual in nature, for example, involving kissing, sexual fondling, or sex with another individual outside of the relationship. Infidelity is dependent, of course, on the exclusivity and expectations within the relationship. And so in marital relationship, exclusivity expectations are commonly assumed, although they are not always met. When they are not met, what research has found is that particular psychological damage, including feelings of rage and betrayal, lowering of sexual and personal confidence, and damage to self-image can occur. And we have underscored that, and we're going to say it again. What we're stating here, what research has found, particularly what? Psychological damage, including rage, betrayal, lowering of sexual and personal confidence. So because of this infidelity, we see how it even affects persons on a psychological level. Damage to self-image also can occur. And so what we are stating here, if there's a desire to restore a marriage, for example, are there some things that the guilty spouse should do? And that's what we want to talk about. Just briefly now, since we did it in part one, what are some of the things that the guilty spouse can do? The guilty spouse must be totally honest with you about everything. Now is not the time for the guilty spouse to hold back information or just give you, enough information so that you can get off them back. No, the guilty spouse must look to come clean and to be totally honest. If you find out that they were not totally honest with you, and remember the caveat there is if there's a desire to, and you want to restore the relationship, then if you are guilty, then we invite you to be totally honest, come clean. But not only that, the guilty spouse must answer every question that you ask truthfully and fully. And again, not just enough information to get you off them back. Because oftentimes we see that. Sometimes we make excuses for our partners and we say, listen, they cannot handle the truth. So because they cannot handle the truth, then I'm not going to give this to them. I am saying, at best then, no, at worst, give it to them incrementally. At worst, give it to them incrementally then. But give the truth, notwithstanding, still give the full truth and nothing but the truth. Incrementally, he said, okay, here is some, and here is some, and here is some, and here is some. Sometimes if you flood them with it all at once, you know, it can be a little bit overwhelming for folks. All right. So that might be the case. So now I might say something about that down. I might say something that might contradict myself. I said might, but we will see what happens with that. The guilty spouse must do everything in their power to prove to you that you are the one that they want to be with. And that's an important thing. So they must make a big deal over you, right? They must reach out to you. They must prove to you, my next point, they must prove to you their love and their I'm going to use this term, newfound loyalty. They must now prove that to you, that they're prepared to do everything and anything to stay with you, that this escapade that they found themselves with or on or in, really, in truth and in fact, it is never going to happen again. There has to be some commitment on their part to let you feel secure going forward. The guilty spouse must prove their love to you. They must be patient. They must be gentle. They must be compassionate and understanding. And I don't know who has their mic on, but I can ask you to mute it, please. So the guilty spouse must again prove their love to you. They must be patient. So remember, at this phase and stage, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be angry. You're going to feel betrayed. And of such, you're looking for answers so that you can have some type of closure to what has happened as far as the infidelity is concerned in the relationship. So you are going to be coming hard and maybe harsh too, as you know, in terms of your approach to the person who has brought about the hurt, and as a result of that, I am saying that the guilty spouse need to be patient with that, with your approach. So if you might find yourself shouting and insisting and angry and such like, and there are other attendant things, but we won't go there. Notwithstanding, what we are saying is that the guilty person must be patient. They must be understanding. They must be gentle. They must be compassionate, and not try to cool you down. And even say things like, "Oh, so we are going so far." You know, yeah, I understand some of this, but you don't have to go on. So I'm saying that's not the time to have that kind of narrative or conversation with your spouse, but rather for the most part to be understanding. And one way for you to understand is for you to feel their pain. Is to an extent. You have reversed the roles, so to speak. You put yourself in their shoes, and you recognize how hurtful it not only feels, but possibly how you would behave, and to an extent, how you don't even want anybody to tell you to cool down or to calm down, but more so to allow you the full privilege to vent, so to speak. Well, when you feel the person's pain, once they're behaving that way, then you are not going to push back, but you are going to be, for the most part, on the receiving end, being compassionate and understanding, and being quite apologetic, 1,000 times and counting, 1,000 times and counting, 1,000 times and counting. The guilty spouse must fully understand the devastation they have caused you. Sometimes, unfortunately, they think it's just between our family, when in truth and in fact, oftentimes it 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 affects the children, because the children see what is happening to mommy and daddy. So it affects the children. It not only affects the children, it affects the in-laws, because somebody's going to, share with the in-laws, um, whichever persons you are close with, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your uncle, your mother, your father, whomever it is. But you often find that the guilty spouse needs some type of comfort and reassurance and support. And oftentimes they go to their family of origin. And so now the family of origin is very much so aware of what has happened. Sometimes they try to keep them out of it. So if they don't share it with them, then they go and share it with a friend. But to a large extent, it comes out. It may come out if they have a church community, then they share it with their minister of religion, or elders that might be in the congregation. And so you might find that they go and share the information with them, because they're looking for some type of support in how to manage this painful experience that they're now going through. So the devastation now spreads, but not only to the church community and to family members, and we started off and with the children, but also even this person, where your friends are concerned, the disappointment that your friends now feel about you, and the different advice that you're possibly taking from other people about what it is that you must do. You might hear folks say, left him, you can't stay there. Or once bitten, twice shy. Me not ever make this happen to me again. Or listen, this is the third time, or this is the fourth impropriety. And so you can stay there into this thing here. Yeah, that you're a fool. I am saying no, you are now susceptible to all of these statements and commands and demands as to what it is that you must do, and the immediacy that you must take as far as action is concerned. So this is the devastation that it has caused you, where even as far as making a decision, you feel coerced or prodded to make an immediate decision where this is concerned. But not only that, so we're not mentioning, a part of that friend might also be, and this is where we can get some pushback, where you might need to also have a conversation with the person that you got involved with. But before we jump on that one, let me say this: the guilty spouse must accept full responsibility for their actions. No, it's not the time for the person to be saying, you were the reason why I did this. If you never did this, I wouldn't have to do that. It's because you withheld this from me. It's because you were not kind to me. It's because you never, it's because. And come up with a mountain of different reasons as to why they almost had no choice but to take this course of action. That's not the time for the guilty spouse to be defending themselves or to give a reason for their action. One of the statements I made in part one is that you were not raped. So you had a part to play in consenting to this act, the guilty spouse must stop all contact with the opposite person. So, and not try to protect them. So you remember when we mentioned this part, that the guilty spouse must fully understand the devastation that they caused you, the undue embarrassment that they have caused you. No people at your workplace even know because of this thing here. And the community by extension might even know. And so believe you me, it's as if to say you're walking around feeling shame, why? Because of what this person has done. And I'm saying here that the guilty person need to understand the extent of the devastation. That they really, really need to do that, because only in so doing will they really, let's go back to this point, will really become patient and gentle and compassionate and understanding. That's the only way they will have these attending emotions. Why? Because they understand the extent of the devastation. Okay. Now, when I mentioned that the guilty spouse must stop all contacts with the opposite person and try not to protect them, sometimes you find that the person who is in pain wants to know, not only wants to know what happened, but with whom. And so they almost go on a campaign in wanting to find out who is this person and what did this, and is it a co-worker? Did you meet this person? How long is this relationship? And all of the gory details, you will find that the person who's hurting, for them to bring some kind of closure, they need to know what kind of boundaries they can set up going forward. And so they need to have some understanding, not only as to what caused it or what happened, but who is this person, and is it that this person forced themselves in this relationship? Is it that you pursued this person? That's an important thing to find out. And so they want to know, because if they do not have that kind of information, what you can find rather, is where they, in setting up boundaries going forward, they might eliminate that one. Why so? I'm talking about the boundary of cease and desist in having further contact with this person. Why so? Because as far as they are concerned, is not, I wasn't the one who pursued them. Can you imagine you are at work and you pursued this person? You were the one who pursued this person, or that person pursued you. So what kind of impact it will have on the guilty person if you were the one who pursued, or is it that you were pursued? Irrespective of who did what we are saying is that infidelity not only occurred, but hurt is present, pain is present, and of such, the guilty person must now take a stance to say, I will no longer maintain any contact with this person. Somebody asks a question, but what if you work into the same workplace? I have found where folks says, listen, my relationship with my spouse is so important to me that not even work, that if it means that, listen, work, I get another job so as to keep this relationship, that's the kind of sacrifice I'm prepared to do. I have found that sometimes we have to be careful, though, that we don't send the message to our spouse to say, listen, but it's my job, what you want me to do? But it's my job, what you want me to do? And so to an extent, you put it back on them to come up with the answer to alleviate the problem that you caused. Okay, so we invite the guilty person to be careful about that kind of narrative and conversation piece with the person who is going through pain. But it's my job, what you want me to do? And put it back on them to make a decision, or to make, even for them to feel guilty, or some kind of gaslighting, so as for them now to put up with this. And here's why. We're going to share something, because triggers can occur. That is why the guilty spouse must recognize when you're struggling or experiencing a trigger and try to comfort you. See, triggers so every time you go off to work, every time you go off to work, understand that as far as the person who feels victimized by that atrocity, as far as they are concerned, you're meeting up with them. Even if you work in different departments, so to speak, as far as they are concerned, you're meeting up with them. And so so every day you go off to work, suppose it's your boss, every day you go off to work, understand that for them, it can be a triggering moment for them. Okay, so you see, it goes back to that point about understanding what the devastation that this act has caused, not only you but also um, to 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 the persons who are in pain. But let me say this: I want to say something else about not protecting them. Sometimes the guilty spouse again might ask some questions, and as far as you're concerned, I cannot tell you who the person is, I cannot tell you them name and things like that. And the reason why, because they are afraid that you who are in pain might go to them workplace and embarrass them, or you might let them lose them job, or you're going to expose them, or you go to them preach, or or even if they are married, they decide you're going to tell them husband. And so sometimes it just get even bigger, you know, in your response. And so sometimes you find that as far as the guilty is concerned, they do not want it to get any bigger than where it is, than where it is. And so that's why there is sometimes an attempt to protect them. But you have to be very, very careful that you don't come across protecting them. What you can do is make an appeal to your spouse to say, hey, we can have a conversation. I can have a conversation. You don't have to be there, but to an extent in your presence, meaning you're right here, I'm right here, I'm having a phone call, it's on speakerphone, and I'm apologizing. That's right. I'm apologizing to this person. I don't care who pursued whom. The fact that I consented to this thing here, it was wrong. And so I am apologizing for so doing. That is one way that you can bring some level of appeasement to the person, to your spouse who is in pain. And that's what I mean by not trying to protect them. The guilty spouse must reassure you that it is okay to ask questions. Yes, man, if you get up 3 o'clock in the morning and something comes to your head and you say, wake up, I want to ask you this thing here. That's right. You don't complain and quarrel and say, it's the time of the morning, you wake up to ask me this thing here. I mean, I don't tell you everything already. What more you want from me? And start to quarrel with them because they're asking certain questions. Remember, if there's a desire to restore the relationship, and we cannot escape that caveat, we can't escape it because it is an integral part to our discussion. What is it? A desire. And that desire, by the way, is on both ends. It is on both the person who feels hurt or victimized by the atrocity and the person who caused it. Both of them decide that, listen, I want to restore trust. I want to. And here are the attempts that I'm prepared to make, or the sacrifices I'm prepared to make in order to restore the trust. So even as we ask our questions, let us bear that in mind, that these are folks, the context is, these are folks who want to get back. And if you want to get back, we're just suggesting, giving you some suggestions or some tips as some things that you can do if you feel you're the guilty person, some things that you can do so as to not only restore the trust, but to let your partner feel safe. Let your partner feel safe. The guilty spouse must be able to tell you how sorry they are and show you. That's a part of feeling your pain. You know, and I'm not saying you must act now, you know, right? But this is not the time to get into your acting skills, not at all. But at minimum, active listening is very, very crucial and important. Making yourself available to your spouse to listen to what they are saying, not pushing back, not trying to justify or to rationalize your actions. These are some ways, not only, but even just some ways for you to show them that you are sorry. The guilty spouse must be willing to seek counseling. The guilty spouse must be willing to what? To seek counseling. Whether with you or without you, but at minimum, you are aware that this action necessitates that I get some counseling, where I can understand and learn to take responsibility for what I have done. For what I have done. I'm going to share a statement with you. When we take responsibility for our inner world, it increases the possibility that others will be able to hear us non-defensively. When we take responsibility for our inner world, it increases the possibility that others will be able to hear us non-defensively. What do you mean by that, Andre? I'm saying here that one way to show that you're sorry is to say, I did wrong. I did wrong, rather than try to defend the reason why it was done. Take responsibility for what you did. Take responsibility for what you did. Seek counseling. Now that we have spent so much time on going through that recap, and I hope, and even in the recap, I think we have probably introduced one and two little, some new stuff or whatever. We want to now talk about how should the innocent respond. How should the innocent respond? Not going to be long, because I want to give you some time to ask some questions, okay? Okay, the first thing, make a decision to love by trying to let go of the past. So we're kind of switching it now. We're talking now to the innocent. So first, we went through and spoke volume about what is it that the guilty must do. Now we're talking to those who are in pain. So be patient with me now, but we're talking to those who are in pain. Remember, I cannot overstate this or understate it, but definitely cannot overstate it, that we have already discussed what is it that the guilty must do. We went through, we talk about, we have a full part 1. And we even started part 2 to remind you about what the guilty must do. So we didn't hold back any punches, so to speak. But the innocent also has some kind of responsibility. Yes. And I know for those who might be hurting already, you are probably fuming. You're probably saying, no, absolutely, what kind of responsibility? I don't have no responsibility. Remember now, what is the qualifying statement? The qualifying statement is, if there is a desire to do so. You want to restore trust, what? If there's a desire. So you, the innocent, you too must have a desire to restore the trust, and do not think that it is the sole responsibility of the guilty. No, you also have a part to play. And this is the hardest part of my presentation, but notwithstanding, I'm going there. You also have a part to play. We want you first and foremost to make a decision to love by trying to let go of the past. You notice I use the word trying? By trying to let go of the past. Not an easy road. Letting go of something like this, not going to happen overnight. I agree, and I know. But the more work you put at it, is the closer you will get to accomplishing it. The more work you put at it, is the closer you come to accomplishing it. Okay? So I'm saying, let go of the past. Stop ruminating. And that's an important term. Stop ruminating about the situation which broke the trust between you and your spouse. Remember, what is it that you're trying to remember? What is your goal? If your goal is to restore trust, then I'm not asking you to ignore the facts. Absolutely not. The facts are there. Set up boundaries going forward. Set up boundaries going forward. Set up boundaries going forward. Yes, notwithstanding. Remember, you are in pain. You are in pain. Sometimes your spouse can do so much and no more. And so you have to do something to relieve yourself of pain. You have to do something. And please remember that you have a goal. What is that goal? And that is to restore trust. That is to restore the relationship. So each time those intrusive thoughts come to your mind about what your partner shared with you, right? And the gory details where that information is concerned. Please understand how it can and possibly will inhibit you from thinking positively. And I understand that. This is why, by the way, this statement I made about the information, the amount of information that is given is very important. That the guilty spouse must answer everything, every question that you ask truthfully and fully. So this is where now we can have a toss, a to and fro, because I'm saying to you, the innocent, you might be asking for some information that is going to make the goal of restoration even more difficult. You might find yourself asking some information that is going to make restoration even more difficult. And this is why I might say to the guilty spouse, incrementally give information. Incrementally give information. And because you have to be careful that it doesn't seem as if you're trying to be deceptive again, So this is why I'm saying incrementally. So, but to the innocent again, we cannot, we're saying here, you have to do your part to recognize, something I'm not going to dwell on this. There's some information that if I know it's only going to bring more hurt, and since there's a desire to restore trust in the relationship, then there are some things that it's not good for me to know. It is not good for me to know. But that, folks, is a personal decision. That is a personal decision. Okay? My next point, decide to forgive or to be forgiven. Decide to forgive. You, the guilty part, the innocent rather, you must decide to forgive. And I'm certain, I think I've gone through this example already about different aspects of forgiveness. So you have what is called limited forgiveness. And limited forgiveness says, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget. I'm watching to see if you're going to do it again. Then you have what is called conditional forgiveness. And conditional forgiveness says, if you don't stop, then I'll never forgive you. You have to prove to me that you have stopped. Then you have detached forgiveness. And detached forgiveness says, you have to cease and with immediacy having any type of contact with this person. The only way I will forgive you is if there is a total detachment from this person. Or detached forgiveness, better still, rather can look something more like this. That says, we now have what is called a under-integrated relationship. We now have what is called what? An under-integrated relationship. Because you have done this, then we are living in the same house but separately. It's as if to say we have separate lives living inside the same household. So this speaks to what is called detached forgiveness. Well, in truth and in fact, when I say decide to forgive, I'm talking about decide to exercise to your best ability, full forgiveness. Full forgiveness. Now watch this. Full forgiveness does not mean that you will have no memory of. Full forgiveness does not mean you will have no memory of. Full forgiveness says, I am not looking to remember. I am not looking to remember. This is why it is important to not ruminate on the situation or on your pain. Okay.
Andre, sorry, I won't normally interrupt, but there's a question that is directly related to what you're talking about, so I think it would be good, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It does the same thing. It just says, does letting, because you have to explain it, but I just wanted to say, does letting go or forgiving mean one has to stay in the relationship? I think you just talk about the detachment there, so I just want to put it there. Put it another way, decision not to stay means unforgiveness. So yeah, it was directly related. That's
from
why.
that standpoint, okay.
Yeah.
The touch forgiveness just kind of says that I really don't have nothing to do with you again. Once bitten, twice shy. That's what the touch forgiveness is. So even if the person has done everything under heaven to beseech you to forgive them, as far as you are concerned, I do not have nothing to do with you again. The truth be told, even if you decide not to stay, by the way, detached forgiveness does not speak to your staying or removing yourself from the relationship. That's not detached forgiveness. Detached forgiveness says, I still have you up in my heart. And because I feel so hurt by what you have done to me, then the truth is, it is a informal forgiveness. The truth is, it's not even a pure forgiveness. That's why it's called detached forgiveness, because I am not giving you an opportunity to bring this kind of hurt and pain to me once again. So that's hence the term detached right there. So it's a little bit different. It does not equate to you staying or leaving necessarily. It is speaking about the mindset that you have towards the person, as far as having a forgiving spirit or a forgiving heart. So you can still forgive somebody, but your boundaries have now set you apart, which is different from detached forgiveness, where that says it doesn't matter if we are close or we are distant apart. I still have bad feelings, I still carry belly feel. Okay, so that's what that means. Okay. So again, thank you very much for that question too. Right, and if this is some other burning ones, then go ahead. But here's another. So here's another thing that the innocent, we invite the innocent to do, together, and it has to be together and not one person. Sometimes you find that the innocent they are the ones that is running down the guilty. Sometimes you find that the innocent is what running down the guilty, because it seems as if they are the one who have to put in more work to bring about the restoration of the relationship. Sometimes the guilty is a little bit too shame, and the shame is manifested in by, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, and so you find that they are withdrawn, understandably so. But please remember, the innocent, it is the guilty who must pursue the innocent. It is the guilty who must pursue the innocent. And the innocent now, but what we are saying here about the innocent is that both the innocent rather and the guilty need to set specific goals for getting your marriage back on track. What could that look like? It might mean that you set up now new terms of references or terms of engagement. It might mean that since you used to do things separately, now you're going to be doing things together, and there's a willingness to do so. So you're not doing it so as to stop you from doing something silly again. No, you're doing it so as to build a stronger bond between both of you. So you see the driving force to why you're doing it now. It is not so much, boy, I'm doing this so that I don't fall back into that rut again. No, that's not your motivation, and that must not be conveyed to the wounded spouse. What we're saying here, together, set specific goals. We're going to go to the movies together. We're going wash plate together. And I'm being ridiculous, you know. We're going to walk together. We're going to dance together. We're going to talk together. We're going to eat together. We're going to sleep together. I mean, right now, some of the together that we were doing separately, no, listen, man, a lot of things now are together. And that's what I mean by what some of these specific goals, and I'm certain you can come up with some other specific goals. If you want to put some of those things into the chat to give us some ideas as to what some of those specific goals could look like, I'd love for you to make those suggestions. Okay, not only that, how should the innocent respond? Both of you must renew your commitment to your marriage and to one another. Not only sorry, but renew your commitment, renew your vow. And I'm not talking about what you made on the wedding day necessarily, but to say to each other, hey, listen, going forward, there are certain things that must not happen, and it should have never happened, and it's not going to ever happen again. It's not going to ever happen. And somebody says, don't say ever. Wow. You know, have you ever been convicted for a crime and you went to one of our Jamaican prisons? You know, and I'm certain if you're spending life imprisonment, you're not inside there saying, all right, the next time I won't. The next time I'll do it better. I'll thief better, or I'll kill better. Absolutely not. You see, when you're so remorseful for something you have done, then you make those exclusive commitments, or extreme, can I use that term, extreme commitments, hence the term never, I will never do this again, because you understand the extent of the devastation. Okay, and that's all I'm saying here. When you're truly remorseful about something, you don't put yourself in any kind of compromising situation for it to ever happen to you again. When you're truly remorseful. So unless you see something like this to the extent where it is that painful, then and only then the words like I will never can be uttered from your mouth. How should the innocent respond? Listen completely to one another, and with your heart and not just with your head. Yes, I know maybe at this point in time, your heart kind of lock off, and really and truly, you're not interested to let anybody in, not especially her or especially him or whomever the person is who broke your heart in that respect. And so as far as you're concerned, I don't have any heart to listen to you because it has been broken. I am saying here, listen completely to one another. For all practicality and purpose, maybe that's part of the reason where the relationship broke down in the first place, where we were not listening with our heart to learn to do, where we were not listening with our heart to learn to do, where we were not listening with our heart to learn to do. And so this is what a strong recommendation here is given, where we listen with our heart, not just with our head. And what do I mean by that? Don't be logical. Yeah, don't be logical. Don't say things like, yeah, but that's what you said. Yeah, but you had promised me already, so why should I? Yeah, I understand that you're saying. Don't try to be so logical about it that listen, no matter what the person say, it's not making any sense. And this is why I want you know, to an extent, to engage the heart, then engage the head. Engage the heart, then the head. So not that the head cannot be there now, but since there's a desire to restore the relationship, I'm appealing that you engage the heart, then you engage the head. Okay. Sometimes, and I'm not going to tell you which one of the sexes is guilty of this, but sometimes you have one that is that will more engage the head than the heart in situations like these. Okay, but I am encouraging and recommending that we engage the heart before we do the head. Okay, our next point is to be open to seek counseling, to have a better understanding into what caused the trust to be broken. Now this is, wow, heavy stuff. Can you imagine where although the guilty person did all of these things, and the guilty person was not raped, even if they were coerced, they were not raped. Can you imagine you say now, okay then, what can we do differently to ensure that this does not reoccur? What can we do differently? Okay. And then move from what can we do differently to what can I do differently. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is very critical that you start with the we before you come down to the I. And at this point, we're not asking you to feel guilty about anything. No. Your goal is to see how you can restore the relationship. So what can we do differently? And after you have explored all of those things, then you can say, what can I do differently? Let me just give a quick note here to the guilty person. When the innocent says, now, what can I do differently? That's not the time to have your Craigslist, you know, or your treatise. That's not the time to say, okay, but you know, long may wait for you to ask me that question here. That's not the time for that. Even with that too, you see, one or maybe two statements, and it's not, and you set it from the standpoint of an appeal. And all day the person says, what can I? In your response, say, we can. In your response, and this is a tip we're giving to the guilty, in your response, say, we can do this. So if the innocent says, what can I do differently? In your response, I'm saying you must say, we can. And do not let the innocent feel as if to say you had all of this information pent up and now you have your opportunity to level it at them. Okay? All right. Remind one another that you each deserve open and honest answers to your questions about their fear and betrayal. You see, sometimes we put a lot of things under the table because, boy, yeah, you know, when in truth and in fact, this is where counseling is heavily recommended. Where a conversation like this, you might need a third party to help with the negotiation, literally, in helping persons to process and to handle their feelings. Because once they hear some of these things, these are hurtful information. These are the statements, and what you're hearing is going to cause pain. And so you want to help persons to how to deal with this level of hurt at this point in time. And so, so while on one hand, we are saying remind one another, I'm also recommending that the possibility of having someone, a skilled person in something of this nature to help to guide you through this process as you continue to open and to share your honest answers and to the questions. Grieve. To the innocent we say grieve, but don't plan to become bitter or revengeful. This is why, again, you have to be careful in wanting to find out who is this person. Remember I said it earlier that I might sound like again contradict myself. Well, this is the point I'm making here now. Grieve, but don't plan to become bitter or revengeful. So why is it that you need to know so much information about this person? What is the game plan? What is your objective? Okay, remember that 2 wrongs does not make a right. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Okay, so you now have an opportunity to step back and to process your feelings and to ensure that whatever you're going to do going forward, 1, you're protecting yourself, but also 2, you're not seeking to cause damage and pain. You're not seeking to be revengeful. That's not your objective. You know, if you go to the hospital because you have a bad wound, are you thinking about, are you going to rather run down the person who inflicted that wound on you? Or are you going to run to the hospital to get better? I am saying, go to the hospital to get better. right? Something like this warrants hospital treatment. Okay, so we're saying your objective is to concentrate on stopping the bleeding. Your objective is to concentrate on healing the wound and not trying to inflict one. How should the innocent respond? Give yourself time to heal, but don't plan the time. Give yourself time to heal, but don't plan the time. And what do I mean by that? See, sometimes we have to be careful of our self-talk. Our self-talk says something like this: boy, how can I get over this? You know, how could I forgive you for something like this? So while on one hand you said that there's a willingness to do so, but then you're contradicting that willingness by the statement, how can I? To an extent suggest that doing so is outside of your parameters. I am suggesting, quite on the contrary, I am suggesting that since your goal is to restore trust, then don't ask yourself, how can I, from the standpoint of feeling defeated. Do not ask yourself a question from the standpoint where you think you will be defeated. But rather make suggestions to yourself about the healing process. So rather than saying, well, I don't know when I will ever get over this, a different self-talk could be, I have to get over this. A different self-talk. So rather than saying, boy, this is an impossible task, let it be a possibility. Rather, an impossible task, let it be what? A possibility. So give yourself time to heal, but also don't plan the time. What am I saying here in relation to what I've just said also? In addition, rather, that for all practicality and purpose, it might take 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, or even more. That's what I'm saying. It can take that long, folks. And so with that, don't let anybody rush you into healing. Don't let anybody say, then after X amount of years, you're still a half over this, you're still a, to make you feel guilty, because what can happen, you can mechanically behave as if to say you have dealt with this and there's closure, but in truth and in fact, there is no closure. And so inwardly, you're in pain. And so what we want you to do is that you must plan to heal, right? Give yourself time to heal rather, but don't plan the time. Capture your thoughts. How do you do that? Capture your thoughts and do not let them captivate you. That's how you give yourself time to heal. That's how you plan to heal. That whenever those intrusive thoughts are coming at you and bombarding you, sometimes you can just say, no, thank you. Because if I ruminate on how I feel, if I keep on ruminating on how I feel, something, I'm not going to restore this relationship. I cannot follow my feeling. I need to inform it. I need to have a conversation with my feeling. I need to say something like, feelings, why you keep on putting me into a place where it is, I'm being inhibited from restoring and having harmony once again with my partner. Feeling, you know, mean me no good. Yes, man. But feeling, you know, mean me no good. Oftentimes we have said it, we said, boy, thank God I never follow my feeling. Not true. I'm saying this is one time you can have that conversation with yourselves about that feeling. So capture your thoughts and do not let them captivate you. Soon finish. Remember, a person's bad behavior must not dictate your response. A person's bad behavior must not dictate your response. If the person's bad behavior dictates your response, then the truth is you're prepared to mirror that person's bad behavior, or you have now allowed that person to control what you do. You have allowed a bad behavior to control what you do. So you need to have a perspective that says, you know something, I am going to do the right thing, not because of, but in spite of. And possibly the most critical and crucial one for me is the tenets that you find in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, from verse 4 to 7, about what love is. One of the beautiful statements about, or I should say, characteristics of love according to that passage is that love does not take an account of evil. It assumes the best. It thinks, it hopes all things. It have what? Hope. You see, love does not lose hope. And don't allow any type of atrocity or breaking of trust to cause you to lose love, to cause you to lose love. Love and forgive the way God would want you to, and not according to how you feel. By way of conclusion, trust is one thing that takes a long time to build and a very short time to destroy. Trust is one thing that takes what? A long time to build and a very short time to destroy. And so be careful how you treat each other. Many people wrongly believe that in a good marriage, you can relax and not have to monitor everything you say and do. Nothing, ladies and gentlemen, could be further from the truth. I hope and trust that what we have shared here, has given us further insight on how we can manage ourselves as far as restoring trust in our relationships is concerned. God bless, Godspeed.
Don't move, my brother. We have questions and questions and questions. All right. The first one is really about, you mentioned gaslighting. We had actually done a series on gaslighting, well, a couple of sessions. So the person wanted to understand a little bit better.
Can I give you that one?
Well, basically, it's a concept where you are, somebody is manipulating you. So that's the context, right? Gaslighting really is the manipulation. And the reality that you see, you are made to question that. Maybe if I tell you where it comes from, you would better understand. So for those of you who are just coming in, really, the gaslighting was from a book that was in a movie. And there was this gentleman who had his spouse who was wealthy, and he wanted to get access to control over the wealth. So he decided that he would make arrangements for her to lose her sanity, basically, the question reality. So what he did was that he manipulated the electric lighting so that it would be flickering, for example, and his spouse would be saying to him, hey, can't you see the lights flickering? So that's one example. And he was saying, huh, what? No, man, maybe you need to, go and visit Brother Andre to sort yourself out because you're not seeing reality. But that's basically what it is. But examples would be that someone is having an affair, traveling, the wife noticed that something is happening with the bank account, and he's saying, yeah, but leave those things to me. You know that you don't understand money matters, etc. So that's basically what it is. It is you understand, you have these facts, and you consider them to be so, but the manipulator puts you in a situation where you question. I can't discuss gaslighting unless I go to the politics. I'm sorry if there's anybody here who has. I apologize. But the most Um, definitive. The greatest example of gaslighting is what is happening in the United States, where somebody loses by nearly 7 million votes and say, I've won a landslide. And people actually would go to kill somebody because they believe that. That's gaslighting. So Donald Trump has gaslighted millions of persons. That's what gaslighting is, where you actually have, so manipulate information. That's where you get the fake news, by the way, and all of those kind of things. So if you bring it on a personal, and so by the way, you can be gaslighted in any situation. It's not just a relationship. But that's basically the idea. The idea is that where you are and what you consider to be true is seriously brought into doubt. And what happens after a while when you are properly gaslighted and you don't even understand that you are being gaslighted is that you lose self-confidence. You really don't know. So, let us say the individual wants to make the decisions as to where to go. Let us take a simple one, where to go. And basically the decision, you're saying, can we go to a movie? Something, that every time you choose where we go and what we do, it turns out to be terrible. So, and then after a while you start to say, something, all right, you decide. You just give up your rights to decide what it is that how you're going to spend the money, how you're going to do whatever. You give up your rights. So what it is that you have been debased then, you lose self-confidence, you start to question yourself, and it could actually lead to insanity. All right, so I hope that explains it to some extent. I think the Trump example gives you that though, where you have millions of persons who will actually, when you interview them, they are telling you, yes, the thing has been stolen. I mean, how many court cases, all of those kind of things. The votes is a bigger landslide than he won by. It's just crazy. Yeah. So, all right. I hope that is the answer to the question. All right, then we move up back to some other questions, sir. So how would you suggest the innocent deal with the guilty when there's a child with the opposition party, the opposite party?
Okay, very, very good question. I hope we have time to answer some of these questions. But one of the things that you don't remember, please remember, that's why we keep on going back to that statement that if there's a desire to. You see, once there's a desire to, then some challenges is a little bit more surmountable or insurmountable than others. Okay, some challenges. When there's a child that is involved, that's an insurmountable challenge right there. But because there's a desire to restore the trust, then the truth is, to a large extent, and I know I'm using the word large, and there are some folks who will disagree, and that's okay, by the way, but to a large extent, as best as possible, there's an appeal now, as what best as possible, separate your goal for your relationship and the restoring of your relationship and trust from that of the child or the other person. You have to make, it is very critical that you make an attempt, a big attempt to do so, because only after you're able to rebuild that trust to an extent, you are a lot more objective in how to deal with and manage that relationship with that child. But sometimes, you have heard the saying, hurt people, and that is so true. If you're in pain and you're still struggling with this, then sometimes the type of collaboration that you're going to need to maneuver best practice going forward where the child is concerned, sometimes that is overlooked because we are reacting to the situation rather than managing our feelings in relation to the situation. So that's how I would respond to that.
Okay. Back to the question about the forgiving, right? So do you have to stay in the relationship?
Oh, alrighty. So let me
If you forgive, in other words, put in another. Let me just read it exactly so that I don't confuse it. Does letting go and or forgiving mean one has to stay in the relationship? Put in another way, decision not to stay means unforgiveness.
No, but I thought I explained
Leave
that.
and not. Can you leave
Right.
and forgive, or do you
Yes,
stay?
yes, that's what I'm saying to you. That detached forgiveness. I think they were mixing up detached forgiveness and believe that detached forgiveness is tantamount to separation, where the relationship is concerned. I am saying detached forgiveness. That's not what detached forgiveness means. Detached forgiveness says that whether I stay or I don't stay in the person's company, I still have bitterness in my heart, in my spirit towards this person. That's what I'm saying. It's just that you say, I do not want them in my space. I feel better than if they're not in my space. So if I see them, I don't have palpitation of the heart, I feel like I have to turn back, I feel like I have to go on a different planet and all of that. You know, and my blood pressure go up because I see them. That's what I mean. That is the attending reaction when you have detached forgiveness. Notwithstanding, I'm saying you can forgive someone and still part. And why so? Because you have to now set up some of the boundaries that you need to put in place is boundaries that would warrant protecting you and protecting even your spouse, protecting you and your spouse. So there are some situations, and don't ask me what they are, but there are some situations that may warrant that kind of separation. For practicality and purpose, you might do something, and as a result, it might be a criminal behavior as a result of what you have done, and the consequences necessitate that you spend time in a penal institution. Or you may contract a disease. Sorry, could you just mute your mic, please? So you may contract a disease, and as a result of that, it might warrant, pending on the situation and all that is involved, might again warrant some level of separation. But it does not mean that you have not forgiven the person. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right, we have to go think because we have some serious ones, you know. Somebody wants, thank you for your response, my response. Maybe Mr. Allen Casey can explain gaslighting to us from a counselor's perspective. Here we go.
That's why the first part of what you stated was so correct. With gaslighting. And just to simplify it, the idea here is that you are made to feel guilty for the atrocity of someone else. You are made to feel guilty, you know. That is a form of gaslighting. Somebody did wrong, and because, and to an extent, somebody saying, shut up, man, you have no right to be behaving like that. You have no right to be behaving. We are going so far that you are going so over. So they minimize the extent of their atrocity and almost let you feel guilty for responding to it. So that is what I mean by that.
Okay. How will you know when you have healed?
Oh, wow. Wow, good question. Well, first, wow, one of the things, a couple measuring tips is, how do I relate to the person going forward? How do I relate to the person going forward? Can I speak to them in a very calm and collective way? Or do I feel anxious whenever I'm having any type of conversation with this person? That's one. Another way that you can figure out if you have healed is whether or not you want to share your hurt with other folks. So after there has been restoration, so to speak, where there is where the person says, I'm sorry, and they're working ardently to show and to express that level of sorrow. If you find that you feel like you have to warn everybody about what they have done, then you have not healed. And we say, hey, so this the person did to me, and everywhere you go, you just feel like you have to share that story as if to say, boy, you need to. So, because in essence, what you're looking for is vindication to an extent. So that is another thing. Another way that you can figure out if you have healed also is in your own prayers. That's right, in your own prayers. What kind of thought process you are having? Are you prepared to pray with this person? That God will help them to move on and to move forward? Or is it that you have a David prayer to say, lick them with lightning and thunder, lick off them roof and blow them window, No. But all I'm saying, what kind of, what is associated with your discourse, with your conversation, with your thinking? And if it is not pleasant, with the hope that everybody can grow from this experience, then chances are you're still hurting.
All right, this is a little bit maybe, let me just not qualify. This question goes outside of cheating, actually. So I know you're mostly dealing with a cheating partner, but could I ask question around marital problems that has become a long-term issue, which the man never admits that there is an issue with him. By doing so, he keeps himself and never care that things are not going well, as the Bible says. With several church members' approach to find peace, it has been unsuccessful. He does not consent to seeking a marriage. Counselor, what should the wife do?
Okay. Well, the truth is, although we said the greatest aspect of what we're dealing with was infidelity as far as the breaking of trust. But this example that you have shared could, to an extent, constitute the breaking of trust again. That is where your expectations that you have in the marriage for the relationship is not upheld, is not realized. And as a result of that, it inhibits how you function and whether or not you can rely on this person in relation to what is the next course of action. So it is I think it is still, to an extent in keeping with the whole aspect of what we're sharing here. What should you do? See, sometimes the only way, sometimes you have to consistently remind yourself that you do not become someone else. You see, you have to ensure that what is my role and what is my responsibility in this relationship? What is my role and what is my responsibility in this relationship? Not only my role, but also what is my goal in relation to my responsibility in this relationship. Because you want to be careful, and we mentioned a statement there that a person's bad behavior must not or cannot dictate your response. That you have to seek and look to do the right thing in spite of that. In other words, do not become something else or somebody else because your partner has violated some set of rules. There's a scriptural passage. It says, do good to those who despitefully use you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely. One of the beautiful things about that passage is that when it makes mention of that, it could happen in any relationship. So anybody in your life could despitefully use you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you. Anybody, your husband could do that, your wife could do that, your children could do that, your mother could do that, your father could do that, anybody could do that. But yet, it speaks volume of what is the role that you must still carry out? What part you must play? So them thief, what are you going to mirror the behavior and thief back from them? If you understand what I'm saying? Or is it that you're going to be an example of doing the right thing? Doing the right thing in spite of, not because of. Doing the right thing in spite of, not because of. And let me close with this. When I say, let me answer that question, with even that passage that we shared in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, that speaks volume of what love is. Love is kind, love is patient. It envieth not. It does not, it rejoices when truth is upheld, right? Love don't tell us I'm good for you, you deserve it, if you understand what I'm saying. So are we supporting and are we preparing to submit and subject ourselves to doing the right thing? Or is it that we're going to allow the wrong thing to redefine who we are? So those are some questions I think we would want to ask ourselves, and let those questions, or the answer to those questions, guide our behavior going forward.
Okay, I think we have one more. What if you're trying to heal, but there are outsiders who, in their attempt to support the couple, makes the healing process difficult by their interference, gossip, and their ill advice? What should be your response? Save.
Right. Well, by that question, I'm happy that you're able to, at minimum, identify that the information that the persons are sharing is ill-advised. That's the first thing. So once you recognize, and by the way, it can come from anybody, even from the professionals. That's right, even from the professionals. You know, I say the preacher and the professionals. Seriously, right? Because oftentimes, you know, we speak from our context and not getting the full context. And sometimes because of who we're close to, we oftentimes take sides, right? When in truth and in fact, we're not helping the goal. Let us be mindful that the goal is if there is a desire to restore the relationship. You see, if there's a desire to restore the relationship, then anything that is going to tell you to come out of the relationship is not an information that maybe you want to hear. Why? Because there is a goal to the restoration of the relationship. So once you can use that as a general rule, then just as a general rule, to say, yes, I hear what you're saying and I understand what you're saying, but this is what I want. Not only this is what I want, this is what the guilty person equally wants. And so if it is the fact that both persons is saying that separation is not on the table, then be careful of the information you take from folks.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. I think that's it. I want to just type in the chat again where you can get a replay and to be able to share it with others. standrechurchofchrist.org/media. That will actually get you to not only this, but sermons and outreach programs, etc. So all of that is there. So we also want to invite you to our worship service online or at 77 Red Hills Road and in Kingston, Jamaica. So yeah, we actually use the same link here and with the same password 77123, and we meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. and then we have Bible study at 11:15 a.m. using the very same link. And then on Tuesday evenings at 6:30, we have our Bible study, again, using the same link. We just want to thank you. Remember, the Nav Life series continues. We meet on the 1st and the 3rd Saturdays. And so the next one is on the 6th of February. We will announce the topic at that, in advance so that you will be able to do it. We want to thank you again for taking time to be with us. We hope that you are getting valuable information. We want to invite you to share with others and to apply that which you learn. If you have any questions that you would like to be addressed, please, you can type it in the chat. We're going to leave the session open for a while so that you can actually just put out something that you wish. If you don't want to identify your name with it, you can actually send it to me in a private chat, and then we will seek to address it. Thanks once again. But let me thank Brother Andre again for a very enlightening session, as usual. So we will meet again on the first Saturday in February, and hopefully see you tomorrow morning as well in worship. May God bless you all. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.